Russian scientist invents anti-gravity platform and flies it for fast transit. I'm reading a book on Scrib, and the URL is there at the top if you want to follow along as I read. Or you can just watch the screen because I will display each paragraph and image to you. This Russian scientist is special because he made a very important discovery, one that kids are going to love. According to his own testimony, his writings, and the testimony of eyewitnesses, he found a type of insect, perhaps a wasp or beetle, which has a cellular structure which defies gravity. How about that? He would not say which insect it was. He was an entomologist and did not want to reveal the species because he loved these creatures and felt that this particular one was endangered. If you read anything about this scientist and they tell you which species it was, I would not trust that source. I'd consider it disinformation unless they can prove that the chitin of that particular insect which they identified has the properties aforementioned. I think their strategy is to lead you away from the real insect that has these properties and have you test an insect that does not have the properties, so your experiment will fail and you'll abandon this idea. They don't want you flying around because they want control over you, and Viktor Grebennikov frees the slaves. So they don't want you to find what he found. I am not able to reveal to you the species. I don't know which insect it was. I'm going to tell you what I've read, and if you think it's interesting, then I have accomplished my objective by telling you an interesting story. If this story inspires you to become an entomologist and research for insects which have cavity structures which produce unusual effects, and these discoveries benefit the world, then I'm pleased, and I'll be looking up from my grave and smiling at you saying, "You devil, you did it, didn't you?" If you seek out the insect which produces anti-gravity, and you hunt that species to extinction, I'm going to roll over in my grave and pass some nasty gas that will make you puke. Because anything that comes out of dead people is really nasty, and you deserve it because you drove a very important species to extinction, and that ain't right. In fact, it's an abomination. How dare you take away all those inventions that come out of this? Do you know how many kids have watched Back to the Future with Michael Andrew Fox? I mean Michael J. Fox. His real name doesn't have a J in it. I bet you didn't know that. Michael J. Fox played Marty McFly in Back to the Future in the 1980s, and he rode a hoverboard. And when I saw that movie, I said, "Mommy, can you get me one of these, please, 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 please?" And my mother said, "Son, you're 31 years old. If you want one, get one." So I went down to Walmart, and Sam Walton was working there, and I asked, "Do you have any hoverboards?" And Sam says, "Come again?" "Hoverboard? You devil, you. You've been watching Back to the Future, haven't you?" My face turned red, and I confessed. I was 31, and I always loved movies about time travel. He said, "We don't have any now, but they're coming in soon." I said, "How soon?" He said, "Real soon." I asked, "Do you know Sheldon Idle by any chance?" "What does soon mean?" He said, "In about 100 years," and then he and everyone in the store started laughing like a bunch of chimpanzees on roller skates, and I left. The last time I was in Walmart, they had government cameras watching every breath I take like a bunch of Nazis. Is Walmart going to allow them to touch our private places looking for the real terrorists? They're in Washington. They work for the government, fools. Now, what does all this have to do with Viktor Grebennikov? When you try to find information about him and his discovery, you're going to find a lot of disinformation. How do you know it's disinformation? Because all the articles read exactly the same, and they're omnipresent. For all you dirtbags out there, omnipresent means everywhere. Why don't you take a vocabulary class, improve your mind for a change, and stop drinking government fluoridated water? You might think more clearly. When I discovered Grebennikov and read his book, which was illustrated by him, as he was also an artist, fabulous mind, this guy, I dreamed of flying around at 1,000 miles per hour invisible as he was, and being able to go anywhere I want without the Nazi checkpoints touching my genitalia and humiliating me so they can break me and control my mind, turn me into an assassin like Sirhan or Timothy McVeigh. 1,000 miles per hour. Yep, that's faster than a jet, you know. I did the conversion all by myself. He traveled 25 kilometers per minute on this homemade platform that looks like a piece of plywood and some handlebars with a steering mechanism built in. Grebennikov was messing with gravity, and that probably means time, because I think they're related somehow. You mess with gravity, you're messing with time. The aliens tell us that gravity has two components, and they simply shut off one of them, and the other one allows them to repel the Earth's gravitational field, and away they go. Other aliens tell us that they reverse electric fields and ride the Earth's magnetic field electrically or magnetically. I'm not sure how it all works. But I think that electricity and magnetism are linked also, like gravity and time. I think that gravity is linked to magnetism somehow, but don't ask me how, because I don't know any more than you do about it, dirtbag. You're not going to find the answer with me. Grebennikov is the man. You have to hear the story to figure it all out. He teaches you how to build one of these flying platforms. I couldn't build a doghouse, even if it arrived as a kit, including a puppy to watch me. The puppy would probably pee on the carpet, and then he'd be living outdoors where animals belong. By the way, did you ever see that guy with the horse in his living room? The horse watches TV and he tells the horse, "Go get me a beer." The horse goes over to the fridge and opens the door and gets the beer. And then he has to sweet-talk the horse to convince the horse to bring him the beer, because the horse is thinking, "What am I, a slave? I ain't no slave. I should drink this beer and let him get his own beer." But then the horse starts thinking about how they go out for hamburgers and doesn't want to be left out, so he delivers the beer, and after the television show they all go out for burgers, and the horse eats 5 hamburgers and rides home in the back of the convertible like he's part of the family. I'm going to read you the Grebennikov book to you right now. Shall we get started? Okay, first card reads, in summer of 1988, an entomologist from Novosibirsk City, Viktor Stepanovich Grebennikov, examined a microstructure of the lower surface of an insect's wing. We don't know for sure that it was a beetle. He's examining the lower surface of this insect's wing case by microscope, and becomes interested by an unusually rhythmic, extremely ordered, incomparable honeycomb. Solid, multidimensional composition, which looked as if it was pressed by some complicated automatic machine. Studying this amazing micro-pattern allowed Grebennikov to design an aircraft of a new kind called gravity plane. And that's Viktor Grebennikov there on the left, just before his death. I think he died at age 74. As usual, this discovery was made by chance. Once Grebennikov put a chitin bristle from some insect's shell under a microscope, and he wanted to put another one, but it slipped out from the tweezers and hung in the air. Then the scientist tied some laminate together from the top by a wire, arranging them vertically. It was impossible to put even a thumbtack on this block because it was thrown up and then aside. When the thumbtack was forcefully fixed to the chitin block from the top, it was lifted and for a moment completely disappeared. Grebennikov discovered a bio-anti-gravity effect in 1988, and then during 3 years studied it from many sides, developed the platform's design, and carried out experiments. Together with Professor V. Zolotarev, he sent a patent application. Finally, in 1991, Grebennikov built his gravity plane and started flying by a noiseless aircraft which reached a speed of 1,500 to 2,400 kilometers per hour. The aircraft was inertialess and almost invisible from below. People who observed it from the ground saw instead of it a light sphere, or a disk, or a cloud, with sharply outlined edges. It is unnecessary to say that this was discovered not yesterday, but in the 1980s. Grebennikov tried to rouse interest of real scientists, but it was useless. Nobody wanted to talk to him. In April 2001, Grebennikov died of a stroke. A book called My World, written by him in 1997, remained. There is a full variant of the book on the internet at http://bronzovka.narod.ru. Let me check that URL and make sure it's valid. http://bronzovka.narod.ru. Okay, let's see what we have. Yes, the book is here. It's in Russian. Today is July 26, 2012. Grebennikov studied an effect of cavity structures of insects. He gave this name to a mysterious radiation emanated from their nests. On the right there's an image, figure 2, a wing and a wing case of Cetonia. In many parts of his book, Grebennikov describes remarkable properties of wing cases of Scarabaeus, bronze poplar borer, and especially Cetonia. Among 5 species of bronze poplar borer, almost all have the chaotic honeycomb pattern on the internal side of wing cases. Now here's a picture of him carrying the case. This is how he carried this platform. He built the case himself as well. He would fly off to places and have a little picnic. I don't know how he could afford food. He only made $24 a month. In chapter 5.1 of the book, Grebennikov writes, "I have only a handful of old clay lumps, fragments of these nests, with numerous small room cells. The cells were located side by side and looked like small thimbles, or more likely small jugs, with smoothly narrowing beaks," whatever that means. "I already knew that these bees belonged to the species of Halictus, according to the number of light rings on their oblong bellies. There was a wide vessel filled with these spongy clay lumps on my working table, which was jammed with instruments, ant and grasshopper houses, vials with chemical agents, and other things. I had to take something, and I brought my hand above these spongy fragments, and a miracle happened. I suddenly felt heat above them. I touched the lumps by my hand. They were cold, but I obviously felt heat above them. Moreover, I felt unknown pushes, bounce, tick in my fingers." Now we have 2 pictures of him on the platform, one before takeoff, and the second one as he's raising up above the ground, and you can see the shadow on the ground. Now all of the popular mechanics mafia debunkers are going to be out trying to claim that this is a fake photograph or something, but this is a real photograph. I've seen this before. I never heard anybody say that it was faked or a hoax. But you know how people are. They know that the government lies about everything, and so their strategy is to debunk everything. So they don't believe anything. Well, I think we have to be more careful than that. Does there exist any insect with cavity structures that have special effects? That term right there has been coined, cavity structural effects, CSE. And if you're going to do research to find out more about this, like I said earlier, you're going to run into 9 out of 10 of the articles you find are going to be propaganda, disinformation, popular mechanics style debunking. And I don't know how much Popular Mechanics was paid to debunk 9/11, but I wouldn't read that piece of trash magazine if it was the last one left, because I think 9/11 was an inside job. And why is that relevant here? Because Grebennikov made an important discovery. And you can see him on the right flying above the ground. And you can see the shadow on the ground. And this is a real photograph. And don't dismiss it as a fraud until you know for sure that it's a fraud. Because not everything that's done is a fraud, just everything done by government. Because they want to control you. They want to own you. You're their slave. And they're trying to control your thinking by having you not believe anything. They don't want you flying around like he did. Would you get on that platform and travel at 1,000 miles an hour? I wouldn't. Look at how rickety that thing is. But he must have lifted up off the ground and realized that there is no perturbance on his body whatsoever, and that he can go as fast as he wants and it doesn't matter. He rode this thing and he said the wind went around him. It didn't even blow his hat off. It went around him. So keep digging to find out more before you reach any conclusion. This is a matter of science. Let's be scientific about it. We observe, we collect the facts, we don't reach any conclusion until all the facts are in. And I have noticed in the past few years that the internet has become flooded with the same article, word for word, reading exactly the same. Obviously, somebody out there wants to deter you from making this discovery of Grebennikov and his discovery of the insect cavity structures that allowed him to fly this vehicle. I have a PDF file. It's written in Italian, and I found this, and these three experimenters duplicated some aspect of anti-gravity, and they were flying around on a craft just like this. Maybe one day I will read that. Maybe I'll read the English translation. I read it because I like to practice reading Spanish, Italian, and French. You might enjoy the foreign language aspect of that, or you might enjoy the scientific aspect of that. Let's move on to the next card. This radiation cannot be screened. Grebennikov wrote, I put a piece of cardboard on top. The feelings were the same. I put a pan's lid, but it had no effect. This something ran through the barrier. I should immediately study this phenomenon, but the instruments did not react at all. Neither finest thermometers, nor ultrasound recorders, electrometers, nor magnetometers, but ordinary human hands, not only my hands, obviously felt either heat or cold wind or ticks or a denser medium above the nests. Some people's hands became heavier. Other people's hands were pushed up. Some people's fingers grew numb. Forearms' muscles felt spasms. Some people felt giddy, secreted saliva voluminously. But how did Viktor Grebennikov come to the idea of his aircraft? Let us read further. In summer 1988, I watched by microscope chitin shells of insects, their fleecy antennae, butterfly wings, lamellae of finest structure, open work of shad moon eyes wings, with bright play and other natural patents. I was interested in an unusually rhythmic microstructure of some parts of rather big insects. This was an extremely ordered composition, which looked as if it had been pressed by some complicated automatic machine, according to special designs and calculations. In my opinion, this incomparable cellular structure was necessary neither for strength nor for decoration of this part. So nature put this there on big insects so they wouldn't have to defy gravity by flapping their wings. They would be weightless naturally. How do you like that? I did not notice something even resembling such an unusual, amazing micro-pattern, neither on insects' parts, nor in the rest of nature, nor in technology, nor in art. Due to the fact that it was multidimensional, I could not copy it in a flat drawing or a photograph. Why does an insect have this? This structure is located in the bottom of wing cases and is almost always hidden. It can be seen only when an insect flies, but who can do this? I suspected that this can be a wave beacon having my effect of multi-cavitary structures. During this really happy summer, there were a lot of insects of this species, and I caught them using light in the evenings. Neither before nor after that, I observed neither such a great number of them or even single individuals. I put a small concave chitin lamella on a microscope table in order to watch its strange cells using strong magnification once more. I looked at a regular masterpiece of nature jeweler and without any purpose put another lamella with these unusual cells located on one of its slides on the first lamella by tweezers. This is where he makes the discovery. But the part was pulled out of the tweezers, hung in the air for some seconds under the lamella, which lay under the microscope table, rotated clockwise, moved in the air to the right, rotated anti-clockwise, swung, and only then quickly fall on the table. Now, he's an artist, and he flies around on this craft that he built, and then he writes a book called My World, and here's a picture from the 6th chapter of that book. And you can see the ground down below, and you can see his hands on the handlebars of this thing, and he's obviously hundreds if not thousands of feet in the air. What I read was he liked to ride about 1,000 feet above the ground at about 1,000 miles an hour, and that he liked this vehicle because it could get from one place to another very quickly, and on a salary of $24 a month, he probably could not afford much gasoline. So here's his own illustration from his own eye, looking at his own hands, throttling up this platform that defies gravity, and he's looking down at the ground below. Now, an interesting thing is that when he flew over people, they didn't notice him. He seemed to be invisible. Let's move on. A reader can only imagine what I felt that moment. After coming to consciousness, I tied some lamellae by piece of wire. It was difficult, impossible, only if I took them vertically. So I made a kind of multi-layer chitin block. I put it on a table. Even such a comparatively heavy thing as a thumbtack could not lie on it. Something pulled it up and then aside. I fixed the thumbtack to the top of the block. And then so unbelievable things began to happen. Particularly the thumbtack completely disappeared for a moment, that I understood that this is not a beacon, but some other thing. I was excited again, and due to agitation, everything around me was like a mist. But I could calm down, and in 2 hours could continue working. Everything began from this accident. Now remember that he said the thumbtack disappeared for a moment. So while it was under the effects of anti-gravity, it was also invisible. Important point to make. And that's when he abandoned the idea that it was a beacon, this chitin structure, this cavity structure he thought was a beacon. Now he says it's an other thing. This picture was made using an electron microscope. These strange, extraordinarily fine and complex instruments and devices of insects are not only used for senses of touch, smell, vision, sound, but they also receive or generate electronic waves, while some of them hamper the Earth's gravity. So there are the clues. We have a cavity structure which hampers the Earth's gravity by sending out electronic waves. If you find the right wave, you can defy gravity like John Hutchison did. Now, if you're going to debunk this guy, Grebennikov, you have to debunk John Hutchison and Edward Leeds Scalnan, because all of them, all three of them, defied gravity. And so did those who built the Great Pyramids. And if you're in the debunking business and you don't know about Edward Leeds Scalnan from Homestead, Florida, Coral Castle, if you don't know about John Hutchison from Vancouver, British Columbia, then hold off on your debunking and investigate. Collect the facts before you go shooting off your mouth. Because anti-gravity is real. And we don't need fools going around telling us that we're imagining it. There are too many craft that defy gravity, including our own. And if you know about Jane's Defense Weekly, and you know about the new bombers, you know the engines are grossly underpowered. And all the jets were getting heavier and heavier, and suddenly the latest one is lighter and underpowered. Now, Nick Cook did the research, and he's a very well-respected, well-known writer for Jane's Defense Weekly. And I've been interested in anti-gravity all my life, and I've collected a lot of information about it. I'm fascinated by Edward Leeds Scalnan, the pyramids, John Hutchison, and Viktor Grebennikov. So don't write all these people off as kooks. It's not intelligent to go around debunking everybody and everything. This is not thinking, even though you'd like to fool everybody into thinking that you're the only genius in the world. Dig up all the facts. It doesn't do the world any good to be fooled by you. It might make you feel good to fool everybody into thinking that you're a genius because you debunk everything. But I'm annoyed by those who go around debunking everything and they have absolutely no facts whatsoever. And every day I got to deal with 3 or 4 people like that. The comments that come in, people debunking everything. Ask them, what is your foundation for your conclusion? They don't have a foundation. At the bottom of that picture that you just saw was the following. Did you pay attention to magical words? Quote, and some of them oppose to the Earth's attraction. It is really strange that strange stellate cells cannot be seen on them, though. The unusually rhythm microstructure, extremely ordered composition, looking as if it has been pressed by some complicated automatic machine, according to special designs and calculations. Incomparable sponginess, unquote, is obviously seen on the 3rd photograph. However, if we remember Grebennikov's remark, quote, I did not notice something even resembling such an unusual, amazing micro-pattern neither on other insects' parts, nor in the rest of nature, nor in technology, nor in art, unquote. Usual hexagon honeycombs can be observed. Or does Grebennikov want to say that honeycombs, as in experiments on production of the effects of cavity structures, we don't use it in the ECS order, we call it CSEs, cavity structural effects, are a simplified example of this complicated pattern, and the anti-gravity effect can be observed already in such a simple structure. Here are more photographs of honeycombs. Below the photographs, the caption reads, multi-cell structures of insects magnified by an electron microscope by hundreds and thousands of times. These are the only photographs in the book where strange stellate cells can be seen. Possibly it is the construction's prototype. At least this is something very close. We can suppose that these are honeycombs on micro level, and an element with a star consisting of multi-layer mesh of cells is formed, just like on the photographs. And in 2 years of laborious work, a gravity plane shown on figure 3 appeared, an aircraft with amazing characteristics. It is invisible, need no traditional engine as we imagine it, and has no wings or a propeller. It is noiseless, easily reaches a safe flight speed of 1,500 kilometers per hour, which is not felt by a pilot. There are no either inertia properties of a moving body or heat influence of the environmental air to the aircraft or dynamic pressure or other effects. It also has a very simple design, a post with 2 handles, placed on an opened platform. Now that paragraph pretty much sums it up, what we have here. A new kind of technology. You don't have to ever pay for gasoline. You fly at an unbelievable speed. My God, in 2 hours you could be from Los Angeles to Chicago. 2 hours! It takes a jet 4 hours to fly there. And you don't feel any effects of inertia when you're in this thing. That is just amazing to me. A detective story. In 1992, Molodost Sibiri newspaper release of Grebennikov's book, My World, was published. The photographs of Grebennikov's flying by his platform were published in the article for the first time. The photographs were also published in Technika Molodezi magazine. From bad to worse, it was written in a Technika Molodezi article that total volume of the book was meant to be 500 pages and 400 colorful images. In the same article it is written that the aircraft principles, heights, and outfit will be given in My World. Grebennikov was going to completely describe his invention. The whole book was aimed at it. but proofreaders and an editor, and possibly the according authorities, explained Grebennikov that it is forbidden to publish such information. Controls, in other words. Nazis. So Grebennikov had to remove fragments of the text and patch it up. This is why a lot of hints and keys remained in the book. In order to completely remove information on the platform, he had to rewrite the whole book. 2 photographs with Grebennikov's flight were left in the book because they were already known to people. As a result, the book's total volume was more than 300 pages, and there were a lot of inappropriate butterfly images in the end of chapter 5. What a crime against humanity. Everybody who has access to cavity structures and microscopes should be looking for what he discovered, trying to find the anti-gravity properties of certain cavity structures. And everybody else in the world should be trying to get the truth out, like I'm doing by making a video about it. Because people like Tesla should not be unknown. People like Pierre-Louis Egina, he should not be unknown. He made tremendous accomplishments in science. And Viktor Grebennikov as well. Though Grebennikov could not publish the invention's description, he tried to tell readers fundamentals of his inventions by hints. Because in the 1990s, he wanted to tell this to the world. Only in 2000s, after he became ill, he began to reduce the information, considering it dangerous for people's health. In the Technica Molodezi article, it was written that Grebennikov had demonstrated his platform in a museum in Siberian Research Institute of Agriculture and Agricultural Chemistry for everyone. Possibly a big, colorful photograph of the aircraft was taken in the museum. If it is so, there must be eyewitnesses who saw the aircraft. There must be a lot of them. A real device was made in one copy and disappeared after Grebennikov's death. However, in this museum, a model of the device made by Grebennikov remained. Actually, only the post remained. The board was stolen. The post was roughly pulled out. All plaster wing nuts were broken. Apparently, they tried to untwist them. Somebody really wanted to discover which insect it is. Everything, buttons, toggle, right handle of the handlebar, was made of Play-Doh, plaster, and paper mache, and then covered with silver paint. Grebennikov obviously tried to reproduce an appearance of the real device with maximal accuracy because it was much easier to use real wing nuts in the model. In this case, however, plastic copies were made using the real board. It is a pity that the lower part of the platform, that is, the board, was lost. It could contain copies of block boards, parts, and mirrored a real scheme of kinematic blind control. If we could look at the control scheme, it would be possible to remove many versions considering anti-gravity production principle. A range of questions would narrow. The device. Okay, they had a link for a location where you could see it, but it's not there, so I deleted it. The platform's post, the handlebar. The first handlebar's section is a T-shaped welded construction with a lot of buttons, signal indicators, light-emitting diodes, and even an electrical toggle. The instrument at the handlebar's center is an altitude meter. I think they call that an altimeter. An electrical snap-action 2-position toggle, number 5, is used for turning on board, electrical equipment, signal light-emitting diodes, and possibly additionally for permission of motor device operation process. I don't know what they're talking about. Things might be different in Russia. At the left of the altitude meter, opposite to the toggle, the electrical button starter, number 3, is located. Grebennikov pushed it when the device still stood on the ground right before takeoff. Pushing the button, a condenser plate in the motor device, is charged by a high potential. On the end of the left handle, another light-emitting diode, 1, traditionally it is called green, in order to distinguish it. It shows charge presence on the motor's condenser plate and possibly a charge degree of the plate by different brightness of glow. Well, I would not want to get on this thing and have it malfunction while I'm up there, 1,000 feet up. That'd be like someone dropping me out of a building. I'm not Andy Perro. I can't bounce, and I can't come back from the dead like he did. In the opposite direction, on the end of the right handle, 2 light-emitting diodes are placed, red, which is number 8, and white, number 7. They are directly connected to plug and sockets placed in mechanical units of joining separation and change of blinds tilting. The white light-emitting diode induces straight motion, while the red one induces quick slowdown. I guess when you're traveling 1,000 miles an hour, you need to slow down pretty quickly. You don't have a runway. The jumbo jets, they travel in the air at about 600 miles an hour. And when they land, I think they're only doing about half that. And of course, they need to get down to about 180 miles an hour when their wheels hit that runway. I remember a takeoff, and I was told that we were going 180 miles an hour when the wheels left the ground. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's common. I don't know if it's widespread to all aircraft, but that's what I was told. Takeoffs and landings put me to sleep. They're so smooth. Now this device, he doesn't even feel the wind blowing. When he's traveling 1,000 miles an hour, the wind just goes around him. Doesn't even mess up his hair. Doesn't blow his hat off. And we always see the alien craft doing 90-degree turns at 4,000 miles an hour, and nobody inside is crushed. So they mess with gravity, and it affects inertia, and their body mass goes to 0, and so they can make 90-degree turns with no effect whatsoever on them. I don't know much about the physics here. I just find it all pretty fascinating. Now, some of this jargon is very hard for me to understand, and so if I read it like I don't understand, it's because I don't understand. Left rotary handle number 2 controls blinds separation with increase of an active surface of vertical traction. So why doesn't he just say it takes you up? The right one, 6, controls change of rotation angle of every blind's plate along the long axis or horizontal traction. So in other words, it pushes you forward. So 2 is up and 6 is forward. 2 mechanical buttons catchers, 14 and 9, directed at a pilot's belly, are placed lower than the toggle and the button starter. They are connected to the rotary arms according to push and turn principle. In order to turn the arm, it is necessary to press an according button by a thumb to release the arm's motion, and then it is possible to rotate it freely pressing the button. If you stop pressing the button, the arm will stay fixed in the existing position with the given angle. This helps to carry out the hovering mode and choose a fixed height and flight speed during a long flight time. Wow, this is amazing. I never realized this device was so complicated. If you're 1,000 feet in the air and you're traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, it better be accurate. There better be some tight controls for fixing the height, fixing the speed, and fixing the angle. If you continue to rotate, you're going to wind up upside down and fall off this thing and land on your head. Top of the next column. All other convex elements located at the first handlebar's elbow are retention screws. What's that? There are no control and diagnostic elements except the mentioned ones. So what about night flying? What about airplanes in the sky? What if you drifted up above 1,000 feet and you're at 10,000 feet and you got clipped by a small plane? This guy died of a stroke? The most interesting thing is that the upper right handlebars section turns like a handlebar of a standard bike, controlling a mechanism of the platform rotation, unsynchronization of the symmetric blockboard's rotation. I guess that means that these bugs' wings are rotated relative to one another, and that rotation, well, let me read the next sentence. A rotary effort is transferred by a flexible elastic cable with a diameter of 10 millimeters. 10 millimeters is exactly the size of a wrench I need to buy today, a socket wrench, and it looks like it's about a little bit over 1/4 of an inch, perhaps. An inch is 2.54 centimeters, and this is 10 millimeters. So it's about 40% of an inch, so it's a little under half an inch. or a little over 1/4 of an inch, whichever way you want to look at it. The biggest screw on the handlebar, number 13, located under the altitude meter in the center, is a bonding of this cable. Bonding of the whole post to the platform. This rotary cable is set into a central socket, the biggest one on the photograph, where Grebennikov keeps his suitcase. Loosening screw nuts on the control post, I shorten it like an antenna. This is a quote from Grebennikov. Loosening screw nuts on the control post, I shorten it like an antenna of a radio set and take it out of the platform. Grebennikov means this cable when he says it. Take the cable out of the platform, which is folded in two due to joints. Regarding the altitude meter, in an airplane, it's done with a pitot tube, and it's done by air pressure. At least that's how it was done when I was taking flying lessons. I had a few flying lessons, not many, maybe 2 or 3, I don't remember. It was many years ago. I think it was about 150 years ago. Technology could have changed with airplanes, and they might be able to tell the altitude by the air pressure. I don't know. They might have it all wired into one central whatever, and they know the exact pressure of the air at every altitude, because air pressure, it has highs and lows, and so you can't always rely on that. But if they have a reliable system today, I don't know about it. I haven't studied this stuff for many years. So he's got an altitude meter. I think those are called altimeters, and he's able to tell how high he is. Now, does it light up at night so he can fly at night? I have no idea. I know that he would go to a location to do some of his entomology work, and he'd be out there in the middle of nowhere, no roads anywhere, and he'd be collecting bugs and looking at them, and it would get dark. He'd have a sandwich, and sometimes he'd spend the night. But I think he flew this thing at night sometimes, and I think he must have had a headlight on it. The book is interesting to read. However, he's a scientist. He covers every detail. And he tells you things that scientists want to know, because when you're trying to recover the work of someone else, you need to know every detail, and you've got 1,000 questions. And if someone wrote a cursory summary of what happened, it's not going to work. You need all the details, and when he writes, that's the way he writes. It's not interesting reading, but there are parts of it that are very interesting when he talks about the beehives and the sensations that he had and the mental trips that he was going through while he was near this thing. It changes the effect on his mind, and all of that to me is interesting, because I want to know if there's a device, a cavity structure, that will give us anti-gravity, because I want one of those hoverboards from Back to the Future. I need a cheap way to get around, you know, and a hoverboard is just cool. I would be the coolest old man on my block. By the way, the handlebar could rotate. Near a bolt of the rotary cable bonding, a cramp is stuck. 10. Grebennikov tied himself to it with a belt. The second elbow is not interesting because it is a standard pipe. It is not only necessary to mention that it does not rotate together with the first one, but is fixed to the third elbow, which for its turn is screwed to the fourth immovable elbow. A wing nut on the first elbow, 11, does not attach the first elbow to the second one. Instead, it holds a special bushing which helps the handlebar to turn. There is a button directed to a pilot on the third elbow. It is not a light-emitting diode, but a button, because Grebennikov painted it the same brown paint as the post. Who would paint light-emitting diodes which do not light bright? The use of this button will remain unknown, and we will not know how the wing nut on the fourth elbow was used. It is located in the center and directed to a pilot. The fourth elbow ends by perpendicular flange 25 with 3 bolts, which decreases the pull-out moment. The lower elbow cannot rotate because a device of the lower side rotary arm is stuck to it. A body of the device, 17, is a cylindrical piped section. It is stuck to the post horizontally. A free end of the body is cut with an angle of about 40 degrees and closed by round plate stub, 16, with 3 small screws. Wow, this whole thing is really intricate. There is a hole in the stub's center where our handle, 15, protrudes from. The handle is spring-loaded and has a mechanical nature. It is necessary to pay attention to rod 18 starting from the handle's body to the control box. Actually, this is a hollow pipe where either a cable or a rod with a bolt head at the bottom slides. When the handle is turned against a pilot, it's impossible to fly. If it is turned to a pilot, it is possible to fly. Sorry about the details of this apparatus. It is one of the most important discoveries of mankind. It frees us all from slavery. We're able to get up and fly anywhere we want without paying anybody anything, and I think that's very important. And some people want to build these devices. They want to discover cavity structures effects, and they want to use those cavities to defy gravity. And I can't blame them. It's a very important thing to work on. And so if you will just endure my reading of what was written in this article, we want to give the inventors as much clue as possible about how to build this apparatus. Grebennikov had a fantastic mind. First of all, his scientific approach to entomology, observation of what he found and applying it, and he felt that insects were a gold mine. And I think he was right, and he wanted to save all of them, which is not possible in nature. Next card. This is an adjusting element 26 on the upper handle's surface. It looks like a small cylinder with a horizontal metal rod, which is used for its rotation. It adjusts accuracy of the connection-disconnection mechanism's operation by pulling up the cable or somehow else. The Russian translation is not real good here. Most likely the handle is a standard protecting device which blocks accidental operation of the platform's anti-gravity devices without a pilot. He's lucky he wasn't killed on this thing. What if one of these control mechanisms failed? He would have dropped out of the sky and died. Next paragraph. Now let us discuss a small box in the bottom of the post. 4 wing nuts, 19 and 24, located on the upper surface of the box, fix the post to the platform. 2 side opposite wing nuts, 20 and 23, adjust accuracy of distributor's operation, accuracy of bringing together and synchronization of the blinds. Now, I have no idea what he's talking about. If you're an inventor and you understand it, that's great. I'll provide you with everything I can so that you can make one of these. Could you please make me a hoverboard? I want to be Michael J. Fox. There are 2 distributors. The left one is used for separating the blinds. The right one is used for change of the blind's angle. Each mechanical distributor of the efforts, located horizontally, is connected to a cable from each of the rotary arms of the handlebar. Then efforts are distributed to several cables to each of 4 blinds blocks. There is a treadle, 22, in the box from the pilot's side for the right foot. That might be treadle also. It's spelled treadle, T-R-E-A-D-L-E. Its function is quick slowdown and also standard slowdown. Oh, I'd love to see him fly this thing. I'd like to see him come in at 1,000 miles an hour and use this treadle 22 to slow down. That would be very interesting. There's no inertia, so he can slow down and it wouldn't even mess up his hair, if he had any. I guess he did have hair. I remember hair. It grows on the head. Another electrical snap action toggle is located near the treadle at the left of it. It has a bright orange color, and either it's made of a transparent plastic or lit from inside by a light-emitting diode, or made of an opaque material and painted by a fluorescent paint with phosphorus or something like that. Why is it painted? It is made so due to the fact that it is used only at night, that is, under conditions of limited illumination. What does it control? A small headlight is placed on the right side of the box like a reflector of a flashlight. Well, wouldn't that attract attention? You turn on your headlights to fly at night, you can see, and people see this light flashing down and they look to see where it's coming from and it's invisible? I don't get it. It turns the headlight on. A flashlight lamp is used. Well, if you're 1,000 feet up, how far could that flashlight lamp shine? It wouldn't reflect anything except water vapor. I think maybe that flashlight would be used in landing. But I would really like to know how high I am. I don't know. This is running into complications. A lot of questions. A flashlight lamp is used. It is connected through a resistor to a small accumulator hidden in the same box at the handlebar's base. It is an analog of Krona, battery of 9 volt. It has the same size, but it is cylindrical. Okay, he's flying at night, his batteries go out, no more flashlight. How does he land? He should not fly unless it's a full moon. He needs a little bit of reflection of light from the earth. It can get really dark if there's no moon, not even a crescent. It is necessary to mention that such an accumulator can supply all light-emitting diodes, headlights, and a high-voltage transformer, and charge the condenser plates in the motion device for a couple of weeks of continuous operation. Okay, that's the explanation I was looking for. At least it will be enough for a rather long time. It can also be charged at home. Something that lasts a couple of weeks is a pretty powerful battery, so I'd like to know more about that. I'm curious. How about you? I'm reading ahead now, and I can see that he answered more of my questions. The headlight can be used during takeoff and landing and is useless during flight due to 2 reasons. First of all, there's nothing to light in the sky except water vapor. Second, if the platform's irradiators have sufficient power, the platform becomes invisible and stops light from going out of its field limits. There you go. I was wondering about that, but I didn't even say it. I was wondering if this object is invisible, wouldn't the light also be invisible? Here he answers the question. Yes, indeed. Besides, it is difficult to accidentally step on and break the toggle glowing in the dark because it is placed not very well. Boy, that's a bad translation. I'm not sure what that means. The platform's base. Grebennikov made his airplane of a platform so numerous screws and wing nuts are just lightly modified platform's parts. I don't understand that. Each of the platform halves was made by Grebennikov of one wooden piece, while industrially produced platforms are made of plywood with attached boards. But this is a box of old Soviet microscope package with external walls thickness of 8 millimeters, about 1/4 of an inch, and an internal walls thickness of about 50 millimeters, about 20 inches. Grebennikov only had to take out a plastic foam interlay and cover the body with drying oil. He made this, though the board's thickness of 8 millimeters is rather unreliable. Possibly Grebennikov strengthened the base by sheet metal from inside. Blinds, blockboards. The blind's design is a standard fan made of flat, long elements. There are 4 fans. Each of their 4 axles is fixed vertically at the platform's corners. It can be seen in photographs. Even a picture by Grebennikov showing its device from below exists. 2 bolt heads can be also seen on the photographs approximately in the center of each platform halves. This is a bonding of the distribution mechanism which transfers effort from the distributors to a fan opening device. Each fan consists of 9 plates. In order to make them strong, the plates are made of sheet metal. Micronets are stuck from the upper surface of each plate. On the one hand, the metal does not prevent nets from operating because the effect of cavitary structures cannot be screened, and on the other hand, protects them from mechanical influences such as influence of grass during landing. Holes in the plates which can be seen are not related to micro cells. They are made only for lightening the metal plate's weight. Do you see that it is difficult for Grebennikov to hold even a lightened version of his platform? Anti-gravity effect, created due to the effect of cavitary structures, is produced by the cells, but they need fuel in order to work with maximum efficiency? I didn't know that. What kind of fuel? Roughly speaking, the effect of cavitary structures works the following way. Any material consists of particles vibrating by its own frequency. Read Tesla's Cosmology, works of John Keely, Thomas Henry Morey, Wilhelm Reich, and others. Due to such internal atomic vibrations, a stationary wave exists in the environment around any object. and further discrete reflections or maximums of such a wave. Need more explanation here. Thus, a frequency and length of such vibration are unique for any material according to Grebennikov. This is a reflection of de Broglie waves, de Broglie spelled D-E-B-R-O-G-L-I-E waves. If we make a cavity, its walls will begin to radiate towards each other or under some angles, whatever that means. If a right size of such cell will be found, waves maximums will sum up and a field will be strengthened in the given point of space. Field antinode. Well, I hope you guys understand that, because I don't, and I also don't know if we can trust this interpretation. This might be disinformation leading you in the wrong direction instead of the right direction. But if you understand this and you agree that it sounds reasonable, then invent the machine, please. So let us make conclusions. First, as many as possible surfaces are necessary for one cell. It may seem strange, but a polygon with maximal quantity of sides, which can be used for filling a plane without gaps and fractally, is a hexagon. Second, the less the size of each cell, the more quantity of surfaces which can have with the same volume. The more cells, and accordingly the more surfaces, the stronger the effect of cavity structures. Well, this is very important information. It sounds critical to understanding cavity structural effects, CSEs. Let us remark more that size of one cell is not arbitrary, but divisible by wave reflections, maximums position, which in their turn depends on a used material. Wave reflections can be far from the surface as well as very close to it. Closer ones have stronger power. So we have a very fine net. By specifying a certain geometry of its cells, size and form of planes, angles between the planes, we concentrate our static field, the material's radiation, in certain points of space. However, we are interested first of all in force gradient. The mentioned static field does not produce yield and confirms the law of conservation of energy. We don't have anti-gravity so far. Then we use lepton theory of Isakov. Remember that lepton, ether, and orgone are the same. I didn't know that. Did you? Lost me a long time ago. We have to determine such a form of cells which will allow having different field force from a very low on the one side to a very high on another. Sure. The less distance to the cell material surface, the stronger wave reflections we have. Oh. We make a simple and logical conclusion that one side of the cell must be geometrically less than another. Oh. If an initial cell is cylindrical, we have a cone. If it's triangular or square, we have a pyramid with a triangular or square base. I see. If we initially have a hexagonal cell, the pyramid will be hexagonal too. And I hope that's clear to you. It is necessary to tell about lepton explanation of gravity effect. So gravity is connected to leptons? This means that leptons fly all over space in all directions chaotically, not according to Leeds-Skalnin. They pass through all bodies, he agreed with that, but still they transit some very small part of their speed to these bodies. Well, Leeds-Skalnin didn't say anything about that. Now imagine two spheres. A lepton stream flying from one sphere to another passes through the first sphere, breaks, and irradiates the second sphere less than the first one. The second sphere is in lepton shadow of the first one. Oh, hey, you lost me, honestly. I'm completely lost. If you can understand this stuff, you're a genius. And on the contrary, he ends the sentence right there, and on the contrary, period. Thus, pressure from the direction of the internal space between spheres will be less than the external pressure, which leads to attraction, that is, pushing together of two bodies. This effect is called gravity. Sounds a little bit familiar to what the aliens were saying. They said gravity has two components. They shut off one and allows them to manipulate the other one, and their ships are not affected by gravity. You did it, didn't you? If you seek out the insect which produces anti-gravity, and you hunt that species to extinction, I'm going to roll over in my grave and pass some nasty gas that will make you puke. Because anything that comes out of dead people is really nasty, and you deserve it because you drove a very important species to extinction, and that ain't right. In fact, it's an abomination. How dare you take away all those inventions that come out of this? Do you know how many kids have watched Back to the Future with Michael Andrew Fox? I mean Michael J. Fox. His real name doesn't have a J in it. I bet you didn't know that. Michael J. Fox played Marty McFly in Back to the Future in the 1980s, and he rode a hoverboard. And when I saw that movie, I said, "Mommy, can you get me one of these, please, 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 please?" And my mother said, "Son, you're 31 years old. If you want one, get one." So I went down to Walmart, and Sam Walton was working there, and I asked, "Do you have any hoverboards?" And Sam says, "Come again?" Hoverboard? You devil, you. You've been watching Back to the Future, haven't you? My face turned red, and I confessed. I was 31, and I always loved movies about time travel. He said, "We don't have any now, but they're coming in soon." I said, "How soon?" He said, "Real soon." I asked, "Do you know Sheldon Neidle by any chance?" What does soon mean? He said in about 100 years, and then he and everyone in the store started laughing like a bunch of chimpanzees on roller skates, and I left. The last time I was in Walmart, they had government cameras watching every breath I take like a bunch of Nazis. Is Walmart going to allow them to touch our private places looking for the real terrorists? They're in Washington. They work for the government, fools. Now, what does all this have to do with Viktor Grebennikov? When you try to find information about him and his discovery, you're going to find a lot of disinformation. How do you know it's disinformation? Because all the articles read exactly the same, and they're omnipresent. For all you dirtbags out there, omnipresent means everywhere. Why don't you take a vocabulary class, improve your mind for a change, and stop drinking government fluoridated water? You might think more clearly. When I discovered Grebennikov and read his book, which was illustrated by him, as he was also an artist, fabulous mind, this guy, I dreamed of flying around at 1,000 miles per hour, invisible, as he was, and being able to go anywhere I want without the Nazi checkpoints touching my genitalia and humiliating me so they can break me and control my mind, turn me into an assassin like Sirhan Sirhan or Timothy McVeigh. 1,000 miles per hour. Yep, that's faster than a jet, you know. I did the conversion all by myself. He traveled 25 kilometers per minute on this homemade platform that looks like a piece of plywood and some handlebars with a steering mechanism built in. Grebennikov was messing with gravity, and that probably means time, because I think they're related somehow. You mess with gravity, you're messing with time. The aliens tell us that gravity has two components, and they simply shut off one of them, and the other one allows them to repel the Earth's gravitational field, and away they go. Other aliens tell us that they reverse electric fields and ride the Earth's magnetic field electrically or magnetically. I'm not sure how it all works. But I think that electricity and magnetism are linked also, like gravity and time. I think that gravity is linked to magnetism somehow, but don't ask me how, because I don't know any more than you do about it, dirtbag. You're not going to find the answer with me. Grebennikov is the man. You have to hear the story to figure it all out. He teaches you how to build one of these flying platforms. I couldn't build a doghouse, even if it arrived as a kit, including a puppy to watch me. The puppy would probably pee on the carpet, and then he'd be living outdoors where animals belong. By the way, did you ever see that guy with the horse in his living room? The horse watches TV and he tells the horse, "Go get me a beer." The horse goes over to the effect in 1988, and then during 3 years studied it from many sides, developed the platform's design, and carried out experiments. Together with Professor V. Zolotarev, he sent a patent application. Finally, in 1991, Grebennikov built his gravity plane and started flying by a noiseless aircraft which reached a speed of 1,500 to 2,400 kilometers per hour. The aircraft was inertialess and almost invisible from below. People who observed it from the ground saw instead of it a light sphere, or a disk, or a cloud, with sharply outlined edges. It is unnecessary to say that this was discovered not yesterday but in the 1980s. Grebennikov tried to rouse interest of real scientists, but it was useless. Nobody wanted to talk to him. In April 2001, Grebennikov died of a stroke. A book called My World, written by him in 1997, remained. There is a full variant of the book on the internet at http://bronzovka.narod.ru. Let me check that URL and make sure it's valid. http://bronzovka.narod.ru. Okay, let's see what we have. Yes, the book is here. It's in Russian. Today is July 26, 2012. Grebennikov studied an effect of cavity structures of insects. He gave this name to a mysterious radiation emanated from their nests. On the right there's an image, figure 2, a wing and a wing case of Cetonia. In many parts of his book, Grebennikov describes remarkable properties of wing cases of Scarabaeus, bronze poplar borer, and especially Cetonia. Among 5 species of bronze poplar, the fridge and opens the door and gets a beer, and then he has to sweet-talk the horse to convince the horse to bring him the beer, because the horse is thinking, "What am I, a slave? I ain't no slave! I should drink this beer and let him get his own beer." But then the horse starts thinking about how they go out for hamburgers and doesn't want to be left out. So he delivers the beer, and after the television show, they all go out for burgers, and the horse eats 5 hamburgers and rides home in the back of the convertible like he's part of the family. I'm going to read you the Grebennikov book to you right now. Shall we get started? Okay. First card reads, in summer of 1988, an entomologist from Novosibirsk City, Viktor Stepanovich Grebennikov, examined a microstructure of the lower surface of an insect's wing. We don't know for sure that it was a beetle. He's examining the lower surface of this insect's wing case by microscope and becomes interested by an unusually rhythmic, extremely ordered, incomparable honeycomb. Solid, multidimensional composition which looked as if it was pressed by some complicated automatic machine. Studying this amazing micro-pattern allowed Grebennikov to design an aircraft of a new kind called gravity plane. And that's Viktor Grebennikov there on the left, just before his death. I think he died at age 74. As usual, this discovery was made by chance. Once Grebennikov put a chitin bristle from some insect's shell under a microscope, and he wanted to put another one, but it slipped out from the tweezers and hung in the air. Then the scientist tied some laminate together from the top by a wire, arranging them vertically. It was impossible to put even a thumbtack on this block because it was thrown up and then aside. When the thumbtack was forcefully fixed to the chitin block from the top, it was lifted and for a moment completely disappeared. Grebennikov discovered a bio-anti-gravity. Russian scientist invents anti-gravity platform and flies it for fast transit. I'm reading a book on Scrib, and the URL is there at the top if you want to follow along as I read, or you can just watch the screen because I will display each paragraph and image to you. This Russian scientist is special because he made a very important discovery, one that kids are going to love. According to his own testimony, his writings, and the testimony of eyewitnesses, he found a type of insect, perhaps a wasp or beetle, which has a cellular structure which defies gravity. How about that? He would not say which insect it was. He was an entomologist and did not want to reveal the species because he loved these creatures and felt that this particular one was endangered. If you read anything about this scientist and they tell you which species it was, I would not trust that source. I'd consider it disinformation unless they can prove that the chitin of that particular insect, which they identified, has the properties aforementioned. I think their strategy is to lead you away from the real insect that has these properties and have you test an insect that does not have the properties, so your experiment will fail and you'll abandon this idea. They don't want you flying around because they want control over you, and Viktor Grebennikov frees the slaves. So they don't want you to find what he found. I am not able to reveal to you the species. I don't know which insect it was. I'm going to tell you what I've read, and if you think it's interesting, then I have accomplished my objective by telling you an interesting story. If this story inspires you to become an entomologist and research for insects which have cavity structures which produce unusual effects, and these discoveries benefit the world, then I'm pleased, and I'll be looking up from my grave and smiling at you saying, "You devil,